My brother called on a Tuesday night and asked me for $5,000 by Friday. He said the mortgage was due and the bank would start calling if he missed again. He said it fast, like speed would make it reasonable. I listened to the hum on the line and remembered a different night, a small apartment, and a number that was smaller than rent. Years ago, I was 21 and short $300. I had tuition due, an overdue electric bill, and a landlord who had let me slip 1 month already. I worked at the bookstore on campus and cleaned tables 3 nights a week at a cafe that smelled like burned cheese and coffee grounds. I had pride, but the math beat me. I called my brother, who was 5 years older and already steady in a job at the distribution center. He had just bought a used truck and told me about its clean title like it was a diploma. I asked if he could lend me 300 for 1 month. He said no. He said he didn't believe in handouts. He said I needed to learn responsibility. I cried after I hung up, and then I learned to pick up an extra shift and say no to anything that cost a bus fare. I made it through the semester, and then I made it through the next one. The lesson stuck harder than the hurt. I'm 41 now, with a quiet house, a reliable car, and savings in a credit union that knows me by name. I manage operations at a medical supply warehouse on the east side of town. I'm good at lists and schedules and problems that shrink when you face them early. I keep a small notebook in my bag, with columns for bills and goals and things that could trip me if I stop paying attention. I live within what I earn. It is not fancy. It is enough. My brother Daniel lives 2 towns over. He is 46 and has a long story for every bad month. Sometimes the story is a client who paid late, sometimes it is a partner who went sideways, sometimes it is the market, the season, the slow week, the truck repair, the wrong supplier, the wrong city, the wrong rule. He calls himself an entrepreneur. For a while he did flooring with a friend. Then it was a landscaping crew. Then it was reselling appliances out of a rented storage unit. He moves fast. He is charming in a way that works for a few hours at a cookout. He can talk his way into a favor with a laugh and a promise. He rarely talks his way out of results. When he asked for the 5,000, I told him no. I did not raise my voice. I said I could not lend him money. He said I was doing well and families help family. I said I remembered the 300 in college. He said that was different because I was a kid and he was trying to teach me. I said I had learned and that he could learn now. He went quiet for a beat and then said I was petty. I said I was steady. Then I told him 2 things he could do that did not involve me: call his lender and ask for a hardship plan, or sell the motorcycle he kept in his garage for weekend rides. He said the bank was impossible and the bike was non-negotiable. I told him I hoped he found another path. He said I was cold. I said I was done for the night, and I hung up. The calls started the next morning from my mother. She said Daniel had made mistakes, but he was trying. She said houses were different from other bills. I said I understood, and I would help with groceries for his kids if that was what was needed, but I would not hand him $5,000. She said I was holding a grudge. I said I was holding a line. By noon, my father called and told me a short story about his brother who lost a farm in the 80s and how nobody had helped him either. He wanted me to feel the old shape of that loss, as if it were the same. I said to my father that the farm had numbers and the mortgage had numbers, and numbers do not bend because someone feels bad. He did not like that sentence, but he heard it. Daniel texted me a photo of his kids eating cereal. He wrote that they deserved a roof. I looked at the photo and felt a pull. The same one I felt the night I cried into a towel at 21. Then I wrote back that I would buy groceries for 2 months and pay the electric bill directly if he sent me the account number. And I would do it in his name so the kids saw the light work and the fridge stay cold. He replied with one word: cash. I told him again that I would not lend him money. He called me a name that he did not use to my face when we were kids. I put my phone face down on the table and went to work. On Thursday, my mother asked me to come over for dinner and talk it out like adults. I brought a salad and the 2 bills I had offered to pay. Daniel came with a new haircut in a folder. He spread papers on the table the way he spreads hope at cookouts. A mortgage statement, a ledger with a bright highlighter line, a bank printout with a negative sign in front of a number. He said the business had been hit hard by a supplier who never delivered a set of parts he had promised to resell, and that he had the messages to prove it. He said he had taken out a short-term loan with a high rate because the parts would flip fast, and then they did not. And now the loan sat like a stone on his chest. He said the bank did not care about his good months, only the missed payment on the mortgage, and if he could just get through the week, he could catch up and then make it right. I listened and looked at the papers. The short-term loan had a rate that made my stomach warm with anger. The payments on the loan and the mortgage together were bigger than his average month had been all year. It was not one bad week. It was a plan that didn't add up before it started. I told him again that I would not lend him money. I told him I would pay 2 months of groceries and the electric bill and help him call the lender to request the modification. I told him I would sit with him while he called the short-term lender to ask for a payment plan. I told him I would help him sell the motorcycle and his extra tools if he wanted. He tapped the table with one finger and said, I didn't understand loyalty. He said he would pay me back in 6 months. He said I had forgotten where I came from. I said I had remembered exactly where I came from, and that is why I keep distance between my money and his plans. My mother looked tired. My father stared at his water glass. Daniel stood up and walked out. I stayed and did the dishes. On my way out, my mother asked if I might at least co-sign a small personal loan so he could reset. I told her no. I told her I would not link my name to his account, not even for a day. She said I was stubborn. I said I had watched what stubborn looked like when it only pointed at other people. On Friday, Daniel sent a message with a screenshot of a mortgage portal showing a red past due. He asked if I was really going to watch his house slip. I asked if he had called the bank. He said they put him on hold. I said I would call with him on speaker and wait longer than he wanted to. He ignored that. He said if the house went, it would be on me. I put down the phone, took 3 breaths, and then wrote back that his house was his responsibility, and he was trying to make me feel what he did not want to feel. I wished him courage. I meant it. He did not reply. The bank did not take his house that week. That is not how banks work, even when panic wants you to think it is. He found a way to buy himself a month. He sold a trailer he rarely used. He took 2 odd jobs. He skipped 1 payment on the short-term loan and got a nasty letter. He made it through the door and then stared at the next door. By Sunday, he had moved the target. He asked again. I said no again. I would like to say the storm passed then, but storms like this move in bands. The second band came with family. My aunt called me and said I had turned hard. My cousin sent a message that said we all hit rough patches. My sister-in-law wrote to ask if I could reconsider for the kids. I told them all the same thing. I would buy groceries and pay the electric bill directly for 2 months, and if they wanted to help Daniel, they could choose how to help too, but I would not give him cash. A few of them stopped replying to my messages. A few sent back a simple, understood. I marked which was which in my head, so I would remember who believed that no can be a kind word. I cannot pretend the guilt did not pull at me. I looked at my savings and saw numbers that could fix a month for him. I looked at my lists and saw goals that would slow if I moved money to his column. I looked at the small, simple life I have built and felt how flimsy it can seem next to a voice that says, "You are selfish," in the right tone. I told myself 3 things in the mirror each morning. I offered help that met the need. I refused a plan that would not work. I am not responsible for choices I did not make. It was not poetry. It was instruction. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a man I did not know. He said his name and the name of the credit union where Daniel and I both have accounts. He said Daniel had put my name down as an emergency contact and that he wanted to schedule a meeting because Daniel was asking for a short bridge loan to cover his mortgage and some business debt. He said Daniel had asked me to attend so they could move it forward. It was the first I had heard of any meeting. I told the man I would attend if I could sit and listen for the first half hour before I answered any questions. He said that was fine. We set it for Friday at 4. I took a half day and drove over. Daniel was already there, sitting at a small round table with a folder and a smile on his face like it was a job interview. The loan officer was a man in his 50s with a patient voice. He had a pad of paper and a calculator with big numbers. He started by asking Daniel to list his regular expenses and his average monthly income before the recent dip. Daniel talked fast. The officer slowed him down and wrote the numbers in 2 columns. Income, expenses. Then he asked about the short-term loan. Daniel said it would resolve in a month. The officer asked for the rate. Daniel said it was high. The officer asked for the exact rate. Daniel said it was 29%. The officer wrote that down and looked at the numbers again. Then he looked at me. I told him I was not there to co-sign or to lend Daniel money. I said I would not put my name on anything. He nodded. He asked Daniel about selling assets. Daniel said he could not sell the bike because it was a piece of his sanity. He said he could not sell his tools because he needed them to work. The officer asked if he had any customer invoices that were late. Daniel said he did. The officer suggested an invoice factoring option the credit union sometimes used to help small businesses close gaps. Daniel said he did not want to pay the discount because the invoices would come in soon. The officer said, "Soon is not a number." He said it in a tone that I liked. The officer then laid out the simple truth I had been trying to put into plain sentences for weeks. With his current average income and his current debt load, Daniel could not afford his mortgage and his short-term loan. The bridge loan would not fix that because it would add a payment without removing any others. He suggested Daniel call the mortgage lender and ask for a temporary modification. He suggested closing the short-term loan by selling the motorcycle and a set of tools he had listed on a form. He suggested a budget with real numbers, not hope. He said he could help with a small credit builder if Daniel followed the steps for 6 months. Daniel looked like someone had turned the lights too bright. He asked the officer if he was refusing him. The officer said he was giving him a path that would work and refusing to offer him one that would not. He said that was his job. Daniel stood up fast and said the credit union was small-minded. He walked out. I thanked the officer and apologized for the way Daniel left. The officer waved it off and said he had seen worse. He said to call if I needed him to talk to my parents about how these things worked. I took his card. That night my mother called and said the credit union had humiliated Daniel. She said the officer had treated him like a child. I told her what the officer had said, that a bridge loan would not fix an equation that started wrong. She said the officer did not know Daniel the way family does. I said the officer did not need to. Daniel did not speak to me for a week. Then he sent a message asking to meet for coffee. I said yes, and chose a place near my office in the afternoon so I could keep it short. He came in with a flat look and a tone I had not heard in him since we were teenagers. He said he would take my grocery offer. I said good and asked for the store he preferred. He said he wanted cash instead, because the store cards were embarrassing. I said I would order groceries to his door and keep my name off the boxes. He swallowed hard and said fine. Then he asked if I would pay the electric bill that month. I said yes. A sent me the account number. I paid it on my phone while he watched. The account showed the credit in seconds. He nodded without thanks. I bought groceries for 2 months and paid the electric both months. I did not check how the mortgage went. It was not my account. I did not ask about the short-term loan. I did not ask about the bike. I went to work, and I came home, and I watered my plants, and I slept. Our parents kept at me in smaller ways. A link to a sermon about generosity. A story about a friend's daughter who always looks after her brother. A text with a line about the blessing of family. I did not snap back. I wrote one reply and used it again and again. I am taking care of myself and helping in ways that do not harm me. I love you. This is my answer. After a while, they stopped sending the links. My father asked me to come over for Sunday lunch and talk about sports. I did NMS. We talked about the team and the mess they always make in the fourth quarter. We did not talk about the mortgage. A month later, Daniel put the motorcycle up for sale. He did not tell me. I saw it in a local listing because the photo looked familiar when it scrolled past my screen. He priced it high. It sat for 2 weeks without a bite. Then he dropped the price and it sold in a day. He wrote a post about moving forward. He did not mention me. He did not need to. There is a part of me that wanted to call and say I was proud of him. I did not RR. I let the choice sit in his column. A week later, he called and said he had worked out a temporary plan with the mortgage lender. He sounded smaller and more tired. He said he had started delivering appliances himself again because it paid straight cash and cleared headspace. I said that sounded like a good step. I did not say, "I told you so." I did not ask about the short-term loan. I did not ask about the deck he had always wanted to build or the trip he had promised the kids. I stayed in the lane that was mine. If you think this is the part where he thanked me and we hugged, it is not. He said I had still been cruel. He said a kind person would have helped from the start and not made him crawl. I said a kind person does not hand someone a shovel and tell him to dig deeper. He said I had hardened. I said I had learned of 3 months past. He made his temporary mortgage payments on time. He did not ask me for cash again. I kept paying my own bills and put money into my emergency fund at the pace I had planned for years. I took my car in for routine service and did not feel my stomach flip when they suggested new brakes. I closed the grocery orders after the second month and told him I was done with that support. He said okay with a flat voice, then said thanks so quietly I almost missed it. We settled into a rhythm where we saw each other at our parents' house once a month and talked about small things. He told me about a customer who tried to haggle on delivery fee. I told him about the new inventory system at work and how it cut errors by 6%. He asked if I still did yoga on Thursdays. I said yes. We kept our words simple and short. It was not warm. It was not war either. In the fall, our mother had a small health scare. Tests, a day in observation, a discharge with instructions, and a new pill. I handled her follow-up appointments because I live closer, and I keep lists well. Daniel drove her to one appointment and waited in the car because he had a cold. He texted me later to ask if I thought the new pill would clash with her old one. I said I had asked the nurse and it was fine. He said, "Good?" and added a small heart. It looked strange from him. It did not look fake. In winter, Daniel told our parents that he was closing the reselling business and applying for a job at a warehouse that paid less but came with benefits and a schedule. My father nodded once. My mother looked like she had lost something big and was trying to be happy about it. Daniel said he needed to pay down debt and sleep at night. He said the schedule would let him be home for the kids' homework. He said it like a confession. I did not speak. I let him keep the floor. A week later, he called and said he had the job. He sounded relieved and a little angry at himself. He said he would be fine. I said I believed him. He said, "I always think I'm right." I said I don't, but I try hard to be. The next big wave came from the past, not the present. My cousin dug up an old email from years ago when Daniel sent him a long note about me being too soft and not built for business, and how he was tired of family carrying me. The email had my name in it 6 times, the way someone says a name when he is building a case to a jury of one. My cousin sent it to me because he thought I should see it. I read it once. I did not reply. Then I read my old journal from that year, the one with the page where I wrote no handouts and learned responsibility, and made a list of what I would cut to stay in school. My brother was wrong about who carried who. I closed the journal and returned to my own day. People sometimes ask me if I felt revenge when I said no. I did not lie, felt old and tired and clear. I was not trying to punish Daniel for a night when I was 21 and he thought he was making a point. I was trying to keep my present from being a repeat of his past. Some lessons are not circles, they are lines. You stand on them or you don't. The line I stood on was simple. I will not fund another person's denial. I will support children and utilities because kids need food and lights. I will pay directly when I can. I will offer steps that work. If the answer is cash to pour into a hole, my answer is no. A year after his first call, Daniel invited me to his house for his daughter's birthday. I brought a board game and a gift card for shoes because kids grow fast. The house looked smaller than I remembered. He had sold a few things. The garage was clean. The motorcycle was gone. The kids were loud and happy. He grilled hot dogs and burned two because he kept talking. He told me the warehouse job had fewer stories but more peace. He said he had paid off the short-term loan by selling tools and taking overtime. He said the mortgage was current again and the modification would go permanent if he stayed steady for 3 more months. He did not say thanks. He did not need to. He stood there holding a paper plate with chips and looked like a man who had stepped back from a cliff. I drove home and sat in my living room and felt the quiet in my chest match the quiet in my house. It felt earned, not by him, by me. By my refusal to be pulled into a script where love looks like unending rescue. Love can look like a bag of groceries. Love can look like the number you do not dial. Love can look like a gentle no that turns a person toward a wall he has to climb on his own. Months later, Daniel tried once more to pull me through a shortcut. He asked if I could float him 200 until Friday. I said I would pay for a full tank of gas at the station near his house and grocery delivery again, one time if he needed it. He said never mind. He made it to Friday. A small test. A simple result. We are not close. I accept that. I do not need us to be close to be okay. We share parents and a history. We do not share a bank account or a story about how money works. At family gatherings, he still plays host who knows a guy, and I still leave early when the noise goes sideways. We do not hit each other with old words in new rooms. That is progress. The last time he mentioned that night from college, he did it sideways. He said, "You were always tougher than me." I said, "No, I was scared and broke and I didn't have a choice." He said, "Same thing." I said, "It isn't." He laughed once, not unkindly, and changed the subject. I tell this story because people think standing up for yourself looks like shouting. It doesn't. It looks like a quiet no said more than once. It looks like paying a bill for a child while you refuse a loan for a man. It looks like buying groceries and not reading long texts meant to move you by shame. It looks like a chair at a credit union, a patient officer with a calculator, and a man who finally hears a number he cannot outrun. If you are in my position now, with someone calling you selfish and asking for a sum that will throw your own plans off track, write one page. At the top, write what you can give without harm. Under that, write what you will not do. Then stick to the page. Offer the first. Refuse the second. You do not need to explain your childhood to anyone to make that true. You do not need to replay old nights. You do not need to keep the phone to your ear until the battery dies. You can say, "I won't lend you money, but I will pay the electric and buy groceries for 2 months." And then you can let the silence belong to the person who has to act next. I kept my money in my account and my peace in my home. Daniel kept his house by changing his plan, not by changing my mind. Our parents learned to stop sending links and start boiling water for tea when I came over. The family group chat softened. We began to share photos of the dog and the tomatoes and the sky at 7 p.m. when our street goes gold. No one mentions the $5,000. Everyone knows the shape of the answer if the question comes again. I went back to my notebook and turned to a new page. I wrote 3 lines I still read every week. Help where it helps. Don't fund a hole. Keep the door open, not your wallet. They are not deep. They are steady. They have carried me farther than any long talk ever did. When people say I was harsh, I let them think that if it helps them like their own story better. I live with the numbers. The numbers are fine. The lights stay on. The rent gets paid. The calls I answer are quiet, and the calls I ignore are loud, and I choose that. My life is smaller than Daniel's in many ways. It fits. That is the point.